Hey guys, Saleh. Today I released version 1.12 of Jesse and I cannot wait to show you what's new, so let's get right into it. Now before I show you the first feature that I added, there is one critical thing you need to be aware of, and that is if you already have a Jesse project, which I assume is all of you guys watching this, you need to open the .mv file of your project. Now this is a default file. Now here I'm using .mv.example, but for you it's going to be just .mv, and in it you have the default password of the dashboard or the default port and things like that, right? But one value is new and you need to add it, and that is LSP port. So add this value. By default it is 9001, but if that port is occupied on your machine for whatever reason, feel free to change this. Now the other file that you need to update is the Docker Compose file of your project. This is of course if you are running Jesse with Docker, which is going to be many of you guys, including myself for my production server. But for my local machine, which I do research, I went with the native setup. But anyways, so you need to open this file and find this ports option here, and after 9000, or after this one, it doesn't really matter, you need to add this value. The reason you needed to add that value is because now we have our very own Python language server. And the reason you needed to add that value in the .mv file is now we have our very own Python language server. And what that means is if you open the built-in code editor of Jesse, you will no longer get some general autocomplete, you will get like intelligent ones. So here's what I mean. So if I write ta dot, now I will get a complete list of all the built-in indicators of Jesse. So for example, if I want to use the comma indicator or EMA or SMA or SRSI, you see I will get all of them, and I can also see the accepted parameters with the default values, etc. So you no longer need to install an IDE just so you can use Jesse. Now many of you guys are developers and you prefer having an IDE like Cursor or whatever, and that's perfectly fine, I get you. But if you are like a researcher and you're not a developer and you don't want to do that, that's perfectly fine. But even if you are a developer, sometimes you're just running your instance on a remote server and maybe you want to make a quick modification to your strategy right within the server, right? So in those cases, now you're going to have a complete intelligent autocomplete, which will be very helpful. So let's delete this. So that's basically it, why we did this. But the other thing that you will see is that if you open the strategies page now, you will see a complete list of the strategies that we have hosted on our website, submitted either by me or our community members. And that means you no longer have to open our website, see the strategy, copy the code, come here, create a new one and paste the code. You can just click a button and it will be imported for you. Now I already have this. So for example, if I look up the turtle strategy and come here, so this one I don't already have. So if I click on the import, all right, so it says I already have it. So let's delete this. So you can do this. And now if I click here, you see it will just import it instantly. So this is way more convenient than what we had before. Next, the most exciting feature of this release is the Monte Carlo page. If you open the new dashboard, you can find a new option has been added to your header, and that is the Monte Carlo page. So if you click on it, you see it looks very much similar to the optimization page, but this one is for running Monte Carlo simulations. And we have two types of it, trade simulation and candles. I already covered the difference between two options in this video, which I released like a month ago, but back then you could only run it via the script that I wrote for you guys. But now we have it right within the dashboard. So for example, we can give it a duration, select whichever type you want, we can give it the number of scenarios, change the type of it, and the default is moving block bootstrap, which is good for most people. And we can change the batch size, enable or disable fast mode. And now if I run this, and by the way, this is going to take a while to begin. It's just like the optimization mode, right? Maybe a little bit faster than that, but it also depends on the number of scenarios that you select. So here I can see the Monte Carlo trade with a beautiful chart, and I can also see the table which tells me like what's the max drawdown for the original backtest in the worst 5%, median, or the best 5% of them. And here I have another table for the candles. So this one is like stress testing your strategy. Now by the way, if you want me to create a separate video just explaining these concepts about Monte Carlo, let me know down below in the comments. Now here we have another beautiful chart. We have this table which tells us the original backtest, like what was its max drawdown or the Sharpe ratio. And here, as you can see, like it was 1.18 for the original. For the median, it was 1.82. For the best 5%, it was 3.21, which tells me that the chances of the strategy and the results that I'm seeing here being overfit is actually pretty low. So that's why we added, because back then we didn't know if the strategy is overfit or not. So you just had the backtest results. But now we have the Monte Carlos, which is really helpful for both seeing if the strategy is overfit or not, and second, for doing the position sizing. So for example, I can see the max drawdown for my original backtest was minus 90%, right? But for the worst case, it was minus 29%. Now, by the way, this is a mistake. I will fix it later. So the worst max drawdown would have been this one, not this one. But anyway, so in the worst case, it was minus 29%. So that means if I want to ensure that I never lose, let's say, more than 20%, I need to lower the size of my positions a little bit in this strategy. So that's how you can use this feature. It's pretty awesome. Now, besides that, we also have the logs here. So if one of the scenarios is getting an error, you can see the error right within here and you can fix it. So for example, it's saying that the order price must be greater than 0. So this happens in some cases with the simulations. If it happens just a few times, don't worry about it. But there could be a case where you run the simulation and you don't see any lines here, right? So you're wondering what's happening here, like what's causing the issue. You can just find the logs and you can see everything. Next, we have the history page. So let's say you ran a Monte Carlo before and you really like the results. You can just come here and load it again. You can also add some notes to it so that in the future you can find it very easily, or by simply running a search for it. You can also purge the previously existing options. So suppose that you have run like hundreds of scenarios and your database and files are getting a little bit heavy, you can just come here and delete the ones that you don't use anymore. And also, if at some point you wanted to know, okay, in that point when I ran that Monte Carlo simulation, what was the exact code that I was using? Because maybe you have changed your strategy's code since then. You can just click on this view strategy button and it will show you a snapshot of your strategy in that moment. And if you want to change the number of CPU cores that are being used for this simulation, you need to go to the settings. Under the Monte Carlo section, you'll be able to change the number of this, and maybe you want to change the starting balance and things like that. You can also do that here. Now, these were the new features that we added, but we actually implemented countless amount of bug fixes and improvements to the dashboard of Jesse. And also, I completely refactored the WebSocket connection that is used for Jesse's dashboard and backend to communicate with each other, and things are significantly more reliable right now. So you will no longer need to restart Jesse itself just to get rid of some kind of bug, which wasn't happening that much, but things are way more. And remember that in the coming months, I'm going to release Jesse 2.0, which is going to have a completely new version of the live trading session where you can add your own indicators to the chart. You can customize the dashboard a little bit. We will have full database synchronization so you can browse the previously submitted orders and trades. And next year, I'm going to work to add agents to the platform so you guys can use them to do research for you. And we're going to have machine learning models. So overall, things are about to change drastically and you don't want to miss it. And this is the best way to do that. And remember that our licenses are lifetime. So if you purchase it once, you won't have to worry about it again. But the main reason you guys would want to do that is to just support the project. Because if it wasn't because of the guys who already purchased a premium account in the past, I would not have been able to continue the development for, I think, more than 5 years now. So I also want to thank all of you guys who already did and supported me during these years. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next one.